The sense of I pertains to the person, the body, and the brain. When anyone knows true being for the first time, something else arises from the depths and takes possession. That something is behind the mind. It is infinite, divine, eternal. Some people call it the kingdom of heaven. Others call it the soul, and others again Nirvana. And the Hindus call it liberation. You may give it what name you wish. It will come all right in the end. There is the steady impulse of your determination that sets you on your feet again after every fall. Gradually, the obstacles are all overcome, and your current becomes stronger. Everything comes all right in the end. Steady determination is what is required. A dreamer dreams that everyone else in his dream must awaken before he can awaken. There is no doubt that the end of the paths of devotion and knowledge is one and the same. So the force of the self also travels through the psychic nerve and, pervading the entire body, imparts sentience to the senses. And that if this knot is cut, the sense will remain as it always is, without any attributes. The mind is by nature restless. Begin liberating it from its restlessness. Give it to peace. Make it free from distractions. Train it to look inward. And make all this a habit. This is done by ignoring the external world and removing the obstacles to peace of mind. One can know oneself only with one's own eye of knowledge, and not with somebody else's. Does he who is Rama require the help of a mirror to know that he is Rama. Action and knowledge are not obstacles to each other. The delusion of bondage, fabricated by ignorance from time immemorial, can be removed only by knowledge. And for this purpose, the term liberation has been usually accepted. That is all. The fact that the characteristics of liberation are described in different ways proves that they are imaginary. Engage yourself in the living present. The future will take care of itself. Do not worry about the future. The universe is only mental. Because of the grades in misery and happiness, the released ones may be spoken of as belonging to 4 categories. But these distinctions are from the standpoint of the others who look at them. In reality, however, there are no distinctions in release gained through jnana. The body, which is matter, says not, "Ah." Eternal awareness rises not, nor sets. Betwixt the two, bound by the body, rises the thought of I. This is the knot of matter and awareness. This is bondage, subtle body, ego. This is samsara. This is the mind. The universe is only expanded self. It is not different from the self. A jnani does not find anything different or separate from the self. All are in the self. It is wrong to imagine that there is a world, that there is a body in it, and that you dwell in the body. If the truth is known, the universe and what is beyond it will be found to be only in the self. The outlook differs according to the sight of the person. The sight is from the eye. The eye must be located somewhere. If you are seeing with the gross eyes, you find others gross. If with subtle eyes, the mind, others appear subtle. If the I becomes the self being infinite, the I is infinite. There is nothing else to see different from the self. Whatever thoughts arise as obstacles to one's sadhana, spiritual discipline, the mind should not be allowed to go in their direction, but should be made to rest in oneself, which is the Atman. One should remain as witness to whatever happens, adopting the attitude, let whatever strange things happen, happen. Let us see. This should be one's practice. In other words, one should not identify with the appearances. One should never relinquish oneself. The self is the only reality. They say that there are many saints in Tibet who remain in solitude and are still very helpful to the world. It can be so. Realization of the self is the greatest help that can be rendered to humanity. Therefore, the saints are said to be helpful, though they remain in forests. But it should not be forgotten that solitude is not in the forest only. It can be had even in towns, in the thick of worldly occupations. Omniscience and bliss and mature wisdom, remaining independent, limitless strength, attaining all these, he shines ever, the self without afflictions. With an immaculate body, he, as the self, worship, bathing in holy waters, ritual sacrifices. None of these or others are needed. No injunctions for observance, no fasts, nothing required by the way of getting into or out of action. No vows of celibacy for him Know this: not having any resource to falling into the fire or water, or falling from the mountaintop, eternal and pure, rid of the rules applying to all creation, move about as you please. I tell you this in the truth, the truth, the truth, thrice over. There is nothing greater than this. Nothing greater is there to be known. Nothing at all. Nowhere. Ever. In the middle of the heart cave, the pure Brahman is directly manifest as the Self in the form of I. All religions first postulate three principles: the world, the soul, and God. To say that one principle alone appears as the three principles, or that the three principles are always three principles, is possible only as long as the ego exists. Understand that one who is not able to realize the truth in his heart by this knowledge of spiritual wisdom can never attain it, even by studying countless scriptures spread out like the sky. If you understand your own reality, then that of the rishis and masters will be clear to you. There is only one master, and that is the Self. The power is only one in all. Do your actions without caring for the results. Do not think that you are the doer. Dedicate the work to God. Prayer is not verbal. It is from the heart. To merge into the heart is prayer. That is also grace. If it is asked whether the wise man derives any benefit from the discharge of domestic duties, it may be answered that, as he has already attained the state of complete satisfaction, which is the sum total of all benefits and the highest good of all, he does not stand to gain anything more by discharging family duties. First, set yourself right, and only then set out to improve others. Change the hearts of men, and the world will surely change. But one must begin somewhere, and one can only begin with oneself. Be as you are. Divine grace is essential for realization. It leads one to God realization. But such grace is vouchsafed only to him who is a true devotee, who has striven hard and ceaselessly on the path towards freedom. What the mind has to do is not to suggest a reply, but to remain quiet so that the true reply can arise. Surrender, and all will be well. Throw all responsibility onto God. Do not bear the burden yourself. As all living beings desire to be happy, always, without misery, as in the case of everyone, there is observed supreme love for oneself, and as happiness alone is the cause for love, in order to gain that happiness, which is one's nature, and which is experienced in a state of deep sleep, when there is no mind, one should know oneself. For that, the path of knowledge, the inquiry of the form, "Who am I?" is the principal means. All that is needed is that you give up your realization of the not true as true. Ramana Maharshi's advice on depression. This depression must be traced to its origin. The origin is the wrong identification of the body with the self. The disease is not of the self. It is of the body. But the body does not come and tell you that it is possessed by the disease. It is you who say so. Why? Because you have wrongly identified yourself with the body. The body itself is a thought. Be as you really are. There is no reason to be depressed. The intricate maze of philosophy of the various schools is said to clarify matters and to reveal truth. But, in fact, it creates confusion where none need exist. To understand anything, there must be the self. The self is obvious. So why not remain as the self? What need to explain the non-self? I am is the name of God. Of all the definitions of God, none is indeed so well put as the biblical statement. I am that I am. In Exodus. There are other statements, but none is so direct as the name Jehovah. I am. The absolute being is what is. It is the self. It is God. Knowing the self, God is known. In fact, God is none other than the self. God never forsakes one who has surrendered. When the I is divested of the I, only the I remains.